All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, I want to send all of you thank you for your tremendous support. People are slowly but surely finding out about who we are and what we do. They enjoy and respect the passion with which we speak. But as we always say here at Chin Check Radio, we do this because we love it, as we are simply sharing our passions with you all as we continue to build our listening army to take over the world. On this particular episode, we want to get back into doing our Dallas Cowboy editions. It's been a while since we have done an episode on the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys had a lot going on this offseason, and those are topics that we're going to cover. But here at Chin Check Radio, if you have not figured out already, we will say this loud and proud. We are your go-to for Dallas Cowboys review and Dallas Cowboys news here on the internet, here on YouTube, and here is why. When you ask yourself, Chin Check Radio, why are you making such a bold statement? If you listen to our broadcast during the season, we always say, we do not gloss over wins, nor do we overreact to losses. We try to be as objective as can be when covering the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, we are diehard fans, and that was covered on our very first broadcast. But even despite that, we try to be down the middle. We try to be fair. We try to be objective. We try to criticize those who need to be criticized and praise those who need to be praised. However, we don't live in fantasy land like other Cowboys fans. We're expected to go to the Super Bowl every single year, nor do we predict doomsday. We try to be as fair as we can as hardcore Dallas Cowboys fans. So go back, listen to our previous broadcast, how we try to be fair. So we are your go-to for Dallas Cowboys news here on YouTube. The Dallas Cowboys, again, had quite the busy 2022 offseason. Let's get ahead and let's jump right into it. Now, the questions heading into training camp, which should be coming out, I believe, within the next 10 days, is a lot of, I'm going to say, solid starters are being replaced. A lot of question marks have now emerged because a lot of those starters have now moved on to other teams. And most notably, wide receiver, who was the number one wide receiver, one Amari Cooper, who was traded to the Cleveland Browns March 11th of this year. And Amari Cooper was acquired by the Cowboys in 2018. There was clearly a void in offensive weapons for one Dak Prescott. Amari Cooper arrived and changed the fortunes of the team, going to their playoff run in 2018 as well as even winning a playoff game. So Amari Cooper definitely paid dividends, at least his first year in Dallas, and it was always questions about the rest of his production while a member of the Dallas Cowboys. In 2019, there was questions about how committed he was to playing ball. There was instances in the 2019 season when he was totally blanketed, shut out by Stephon Gilmore, who was, I believe, the defensive player of the year that year or the year before. So he was shut out. He was shut out at New England. It was a game against the Jets in which they lost to one Sam Darnold, where he pulled himself out of the game. And in the final game on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles that would have secured a playoff spot, pretty much pulled a virtual no-show. So the 2018 season, that was Amari's coming out party, including games where he's caught 200 receiving yards. There was questions going into 2019. And in 2020, that season was just a total disaster. So now that prompted him to draft one CeeDee Lamb, or rather CeeDee Lamb fell into their lap. So now you have a receiving core of one Amari Cooper, who's your number one. You have Gallup, and you have a CeeDee Lamb. So going into last season, the Dallas Cowboys were seen as having some of the best offensive weapons, a good trio of wide receivers. And for a minute there, Amari Cooper was playing well. Caught, I believe, a couple of touchdown passes, I believe, in the first game against Tampa Bay in that great game. But ended up catching COVID, really wasn't the same player. So the question was Amari, especially at the contract value, we're talking about $20-something million a year, were we getting enough production for his contract hit? And being as fair as we can, the level of production, it was not there. Now, could they have maybe tried to restructure his contract? Possibly. A lot of people feel that maybe Jerry Jones was upset the fact that Amari Cooper, he contracted COVID by not getting the vaccine. And I believe during that time, he was also spotted at a Dallas Mavericks game not wearing a mask, because part of the rules were, as an unvaccinated player, if you're going to be out and about, you're supposed to be wearing your mask. So a lot of Cowboys insiders feel that that might have hastened his exit out of town. Again, we're not that much inside of the organization, but we're looking at it from strictly a production standpoint, and his cap number did not equal the production, or rather the production really didn't equal the cap number. And we like Amari. He's clearly not a diva receiver, which is something that we were used to. He was a quiet guy. He went about his business. He really didn't, cause any problems. We're looking at just from a production standpoint, and that's going to be a lot of production, or some quality production, that's now out the door. So that will hurt a little bit, and the reason why it will hurt, because the CeeDee Lambs now, who was facing maybe a team's second or third best cornerback, is now going to be facing a team's best cornerback. So now you're moving up as a second and a third, the second, third receiver now to the number one receiver, which means now you're going to be facing the Jalen Ramseys and the Xavier Howards, the J.C. Jacksons, and clearly a team's best corner are the ones that now CeeDee Lamb is going to be facing. So now this is a true test of whether CeeDee Lamb was worthy of that first round pick overall. And we're going to see what he does. Now there's hopefully Michael Gallup, who can come back from a torn ACL. The Cowboys also lost one Cedric Wilson, who was their third or fourth receiver, who's now with the Miami Dolphins. And we like Cedric Wilson, the type of gadget plays that they were able to run with Cedric Wilson. He definitely was a positive player for us, so we're definitely going to need some guys to step up. They also lost Lyle Collins. We spoke about him briefly. His 5-game suspension that he ended up serving, that he really should have taken the plea deal and taken 2 games. He did not. He decided to fight it. Unfortunately, when you are suspended and you're not on the field, opportunity can present itself to another player, which is what Terrence Steele did, the undrafted right tackle from 2020, who clearly was thrown in there and he took all his lumps, played serviceable, played decent, played well in Lyle Collins' absence at right tackle. Now, where the Cowboys, where they overthought themselves, they went ahead and put Terrence Steele at left tackle, and it was an abysmal failure. So put him back at his active position at right tackle, played well for the team. So that's maybe why the Cowboys thought that Lyle Collins was expendable. Lyle Collins was right there on the cusp of being a Pro Bowl player. The same Lyle Collins who was an undrafted free agent in 2015, who by all accounts would have been a first-round draft pick, but it was an unfortunate situation where an ex-girlfriend of his was murdered and he was a suspect, and of course that scared a lot of teams away. We were fans of one Lyle Collins, a solid athletic guard. The guard at the time, one Ronald Leary, they benched him. They put in Lyle Collins to kind of jumpstart the team in 2015. In 2016, Lyle Collins was supposed to be the starter, gets hurt. Ronald Leary gets his job back. This is Dak and Zeke's rookie year, where they pretty much were just running the football. You had Doug Free retiring, so as Ronald Leary moves on, as Lyle Collins moves on, as Doug Free retires, as Ronald Leary moves on, now Lyle Collins has gone from guard to now tackle. So this guy is very talented, but maybe the Cowboys saw some of his drug issues, considering that they took a chance on him. And even though he had nothing to do with what happened, but of course that's still taking a flyer on a guy who played well at a decent Pro Bowl level, solid athlete, good tackle. So now the question is, how will Terrence Steele now respond to being a starting right tackle? Because remember, everybody is good in those 4, 5, or 6 starts, but now let's extend this to an entire season, which now includes 17 games, which includes a possible playoff push. So those are some of the question marks that the Dallas Cowboys have. So again, you've gone from sureties from one Amari Cooper, who was your number 1 receiver, who took a lot of heat off the CeeDee Lambs, and now your CeeDee Lamb has now moved up to the number 1 receiver, who's going to be facing your team's best corners, and teams are now going to game plan for one CeeDee Lamb, which is going to force other guys to step up. You have Terrence Steele, who's now going to have to step up really in place of one Lyle Collins. Of course, he's definitely out there with one Zach Martin, so that should help his learning curve. So again, we're talking about his 3rd season, now getting some quality playing time. So now, young man, this is really on you. The other free agent signing that I wasn't really hard up for was one defensive end, Randy Gregory. Cowboy fans seemed upset that Randy Gregory decided to spurn the Cowboys in favor of an offer by the Denver Broncos that had a bunch of moral clauses inside the contract. Namely put that Randy Gregory has been a screw-up ever since he's been in the NFL, on top of failing a drug test in the NFL Combine. Folks, we did an entire broadcast about that. Please go check it out. I did not have a problem with Randy Gregory leaving to go to the Denver Broncos, unlike other Cowboys fans, because I go back to one Randy Gregory. If you go back to the playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers on the very first play of the game, had numerous offside penalties and is looking at the referee as if he doesn't know how he was flagged for being offside. We talked about this lack of discipline. What is, again, a lack of discipline when you're failing drug tests at the Combine. So whatever money that he got from the Denver Broncos, I am happy for you. I am happy for you, Randy Gregory. The Cowboys, it definitely was time to move on, because with him, if it wasn't suspensions and it was injuries and it was undisciplined play, again, flash potential, in 2018, flash a little bit in 2021, but again, this is a guy who's been in the league since 2015. So we're tired of the flash potential. We need guys to make it happen. Now this goes into one Doris Armstrong, who can be playing opposite one DeMarcus Ware. You mix him with some Micah Parsons on the pass rush. Now Doris Armstrong, who's been on the team a couple years, got quality playing time last year. So again, he is a question mark, along with CeeDee Lamb, along with Terrence Steele, as now guys who can fill the void, who can step up. He wasn't just thrust in there. He definitely got some quality playing time. So we'll see how that goes during the season. The Cowboys also waived Blake Jarwin, tight end, goodbye, and Greg Zuerlein, who was released, who pretty much cost us that first game against Tampa Bay, missing field goals and extra points. Goodbye. The Cowboys re-signed Pro Bowl punter Brian Anger, J-Ron Curse, Leighton Vander Esch to one deal, safety Malik Hooker to a 2-year deal, as well as one Doris Armstrong. And for free agency, they picked up Dante Fowler, who can be best described as a bust, to get more defensive end help or depth on the defensive end, as well as wide receiver James Washington from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So losing Amari Cooper, you still have CeeDee Lamb. Now you have Michael Gallup coming back from a torn ACL. James Washington, again, that's an unknown. So again, question marks, some holes that need to be filled, but definitely have some huge question marks going into the season. Now let's talk about the Cowboys draft. The Dallas Cowboys, on paper, looks like that they have a solid draft. The problem is with the NFL draft, everybody just does not pan out. Everybody doesn't make it. That's just a fact. If you were to hit on, I would say, half of your draft picks, you're considered an excellent drafter. So, the Cowboys in the first round took Tyler Smith, offensive tackle, out of Tulsa. Now, we're not going to lie. At first, we were a little bit surprised by that pick because no one ever heard of Tyler Smith, especially being drafted that high. The person who we had our eye on for the Cowboys was interior guard help. And let me go back to one guard who is no longer with the Dallas Cowboys, and that is offensive guard Connor Williams. Connor Williams, drafted in 2018, and was thrown in there as a rookie. Let me just read the scatter report on one Connor Williams. Strengths. Now, this is from WalterFootball.com. Strengths, above average athlete, has some quickness, flashes as a pass protector, has quick enough feet, very agile in space, athletic ability for his size, good fit in a zone blocking system, can hit blocks on the second level. Weaknesses, not strong at all, underweight, more of a guard build, but a weak guard. Physically has a hard time playing tackle. Durability. That really wasn't weakness. He was durable. Short arms for a tackle, only 33 inches. Well, it doesn't matter as a guard. Weak base. Here we go. Gets bull rushed. Susceptible to power moves. Struggle with speed guys. Wow, that pretty much described Connor Williams, especially last season. All the ridiculous holding penalties, getting bull rushed. I noticed he was in trouble his very first game in the season opener against the Carolina Panthers in 2018, where he was literally getting picked up and pushed back by the defensive tackle. I'm like, this kid clearly is weak. Yes, he was training with Zach Martin, but Connor Williams, it was too many problems on the offensive line with Connor Williams. Bad penalties, and he was another one in that playoff game, along with the offsides of Randy Gregory, the holding penalties of one Connor Williams, and it definitely was exposed even more. Playing against a physical defensive line, which is the San Francisco 49ers. And folks forget, Connor Williams actually at one point was benched in his rookie season. Came back, played decent. 2019 played okay. 2020 was probably their best player on a horrible offensive line. 2021 lost his job to Connor McGovern, who played even worse than he did. So they ended up putting him back. So enter Tyler Smith, drafted as a tackle. Is supposed to get the left guard spot. Now, again, we were not fans of this draft pick. We originally wanted Zion Johnson out of Boston College, but who was taken before that. So, of course, Cowboy fans and even ourselves, we were a little bit miffed by that draft pick. However, when we sat and we thought about it, the pick might turn out well, because in the last decade or so, the Dallas Cowboys has drafted some very good players on the offensive side. We'll go to 2010, Dez Bryant. 2011, Tyron Smith, Hall of Famer. 2013, Travis Frederick, who was on path to being a Hall of Famer. 2014, Zach Martin. And what a lot of Cowboys fans forget is people were not thrilled when Travis Frederick was drafted in the first round. Now, again, a lot of revisionist history, and I remember I was kind of debating people on Twitter about it, and other Cowboys fans were lying, saying, no, we supported the Travis Frederick pick, but then when I showed them articles of them criticizing the Frederick pick, all of a sudden Cowboys fans got very quiet. I can make an argument that Cowboys fans weren't really all that enamored with the Zach Martin pick. Solid player out of Notre Dame, All-American, but at that time, Cowboys wanted Johnny Manziel. Cowboys fans wanted Johnny Manziel. Jerry Jones wanted Johnny Manziel. He was talked out of it and drafted another Hall of Famer. Cowboys fans were a little bit not all that on board with that pick either, but he panned out. So again, the Dallas Cowboys drafting on the offensive side in the first round has actually done a pretty good job if recent history tells me so. On the defensive side, you take away the Micah Parsons pick, they've been abysmal on the defensive side. And we're talking guys like Morris Claiborne, Leighton Vander Esch. So the Cowboys have done well on the offensive side of the football, drafting the first round, Ezekiel Elliott. So it will lead me to believe that let's give the kid some time. Let's give the kid opportunity. He's working with Hall of Famers. So I think that he'll be just fine. And we're not saying that he should be a Hall of Famer like a Tyron Smith and a Zach Martin. No. If he can be that Pro Bowl player, a few Pro Bowls here and there, or right there on the cusp of a Pro Bowl, or as a Pro Bowl alternate, I think that's good enough, especially as a first-round pick. The Cowboys then drafted outside linebacker or defensive end Sam Williams out of Ole Miss, a solid player in the SEC, seems to have the right attitude. Jalen Tobert, wide receiver out of South Alabama in the third round. Hearing a lot of good things about him. Again, those question marks about the wide receiver position, apparently from what I'm hearing in Dallas Cowboys camp or mini camp and OTAs, and apparently he's been playing well. He's been lighting up, so they're expecting some contribution from him. You got Jake Ferguson, tight end out of Wisconsin. Big Ten tight end, very serviceable to replace one Blake Jarwin, also be with Dalton Schultz and Jeremy Sprinkle. So hopefully that should work out. They then drafted an offensive tackle, and I think more for depth in Matt Waletzko out of North Dakota. That's probably more for depth, maybe a good athlete. So we'll see with coaching how that pans out. A tall corner, Deron Bland out of Fresno State. Again, Dan Quinn likes these tall corners. Remember last season drafting the Deshaun Wrights and Israel Mukwamus, and now this kid. So we'll see, what Dan Quinn is able to cook up with these guys. We're fans of Israel Mukwamu. We think that he can actually do some things. I know they're trying to convert him to safety. Again, I'm not the big fan of trying to convert people from their natural positions. You saw how many years they wasted with Byron Jones trying to make him a safety when in fact he actually was a better cornerback. So let's not repeat history. In the fifth round, they drafted Damon Clark, a linebacker out of LSU. Now you think of LSU linebacker, again, SEC, the LSU, even though the program doesn't win national championships, but he sent a lot of quality guys to the pros. The problem with the Damon Clark is he's already on injured reserve for having spinal fusion surgery. He's probably a good player, but haven't we been down this road taking a flyer and trying to kick the tires on an injured linebacker who missed an entire first season? Does the name Jalen Smith ring a bell? And out of Jalen Smith, we got one Pro Bowl / All-Pro season. And other than that, pretty much got nothing out of Jalen Smith after that except piss poor play, and now he is literally out of the NFL. So again, this whole taking guys who are projects and who can hopefully pay dividends later on down the line, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I hope this kid makes a recovery and see what he does. Defensive tackle, John Ridgeway. One of those high motor guys who never, quote, gives up. Played at Arkansas and playing in the SEC, made some plays here and there. We'll see what he does because he's going to be on the defensive line with the Carlos Watkins and Neville Gallimores and the Quentin Bohannas and the Osa Adigazuas and the Bohannas and the Adigazuas are guys who got valuable playing time as rookies. Big boys in the middle. You got Chauncey Golston, the rookie from last season, where everybody says he's put on some quality weight to play on the defensive line. So we'll see what they do. I like big, thick, anchor, stout defensive linemen. Those days of having small, athletic defensive linemen, those days should be over with. I need big guys in the middle, stuffing the run, because yes, the Cowboys did show a propensity to get run on last year, but again, you had Neville Gallimore who was out, so he should be back this year. Again, you have Carlos Watkins who has another year on his belt. The Quentin Bohannas, that big boy out of Kentucky. You got Osa Digazua, you got Chauncey Golston, now you got this kid. So on paper, the Cowboys defensive line, especially the way how they like to rotate defensive linemen, should be a strength for them this year if guys can pick up. And the final pick is one Devin Harper out of Oklahoma State. What I liked about Devin Harper was this. There was a play, and sometimes you can't teach this. This is just pure hustle play. There was film, and there was old saying, film doesn't lie. They were playing Oklahoma, and he gets shook by the quarterback. I'm talking about shaken, falls to the ground. It was a long third down. He's shaken by the Oklahoma quarterback, falls to the ground, gets up, runs him down, and makes the play and stops him from getting the first down. Now you say with chin check, what's the big deal about that? Again, if you don't know anything about the Oklahoma quarterbacks recently, have been tremendous athletes. Again, for this guy to get shaken, to fall down, to pick himself up, to get off the ground and never quit on a play and to run him down, those are effort plays that either you have it or you don't. You can't be taught those plays. You can't, this is nothing that you can teach a guy. This is something that is innately in a person to never quit on the play. So that type of effort, I like that. Now, folks, out of these 9 draft picks, again, all of them are not going to be Pro Bowlers and All-Pro. If we can get solid special team play out these guys, solid starters and contributors out of these 9 guys, again, if you can pull in 5 of them pan out, that's actually considered a very good draft. So again, when you have questions like the Cowboys have that you tend to force a lot. You tend to force a lot on rookies to come in and contribute immediately. And again, we look at the guys like the Micah Parsons and some of the guys who come in the league and they immediately set the league on fire. But those are very rare instances where it takes time to develop. So we'll see with coaching what these guys do. And we definitely wish them the best and definitely welcome to Cowboys Nation. Now, looking at the Cowboys schedule this year, we're seeing that they open up again playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on 9/11, which is a Sunday night game on ABC. This time the game is going to be at Dallas. And again, that's going to be a tough game. The Cowboys have never beaten a Tom Brady-led team. Their closest was last year, again, in a great game. But this is a Tampa Bay team who they even have question marks. No Ndamukong Suh, but he still bring a lot of their core guys back who won the Super Bowl just 2 seasons ago. But again, this is Tom Brady. This is the Cowboys. He's never lost to the Cowboys the entire time playing in the NFL. So you would have to favor the Buccaneers going into that game. Week 2, they're playing at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, these are the defending AFC champions. Hopefully, you will hope they have a Super Bowl hangover, losing such a close, highly contested game. You got Joe Burrow, you got Jamar Chase. Can you imagine a matchup of one Jamar Chase versus one Trevon Diggs? Again, that's an SEC matchup. I'm not sure if they played each other in college or not. They probably did. So it's one of those, probably the Bengals would be favored going into that game. Then for Monday night game, they're playing at the New York Giants. The Washington Commanders, again, those are divisional games, and the Commanders should be an improved team with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz should be good for one more win. Then they play at the Super Bowl champions, the Los Angeles Rams. That's going to be a tough game. They play at the Philadelphia Eagles, an improved Eagles team with the Jordan Davises and the A.J. Howards and the Kobe Deans. So this is an improved Eagles team where it's not going to be a cakewalk like it has been the last couple years. Then they play the Detroit Lions at home, who, believe it or not, who have shown some fight. Now, they're not quite there yet, but there are some pieces in place in Detroit where it's not going to be a bye week like it has been like the last couple of years. You got quality pieces over there, like the job that Dan Campbell is doing. Then they play the Chicago Bears. If I had to maybe pick a game on the schedule just on paper, maybe the Bears would be an easy game, but again, this is the NFL. Then the long-awaited return of Mike McCarthy to Lambeau Field. That's going to be a tough game. They follow going right back on the road at the Minnesota Vikings. They always play some good games, and for some reason, they've always been traveling the last couple of years to Minnesota. They did it in 2020 and 2021, and now they're going back again in 2022. For Thanksgiving, playing the New York Giants. So, of course, it's going to be fun being back in our home state of New Jersey, dealing with Giants fans on Thanksgiving. They play the Colts. They play at home against the Colts that following week. The Houston Texans. So we're not going to say to get into the softer part of the schedule, but again, this is the NFL. Playing at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, now they're being coached by Doug Peterson. A second year of one Trevor Lawrence. Again, we've seen the magic what Doug Peterson did with his second year of one Carson Wentz. So we'll see what happens. That's not going to be an easy game. Again, playing the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tennessee Titans. Again, this is going to be a cold weather game. You still got Derrick Henry. They still have that defense, and they finish up the season playing at the Washington Commanders. So again, we don't have who's going to win, who's going to lose. We do it by a week by week basis. We don't have a win total. We don't care for that. Again, it's a week by week basis because you never know what can happen in the NFL. But the Cowboys have a pretty formidable schedule, so nothing that they should think is a cakewalk. Again, with all the questions that they have at left guard, at wide receiver, at defensive end, a lot of questions, and they need to figure this out before they play a Tom Brady-led team who is going to pick apart your team. So, again, you're dealing with a rookie left guard going up against an experienced defensive line against the Vita Veas, and, eventually that kid's got to face Jordan Davis. So, it's definitely going to be some tough sledding for him, so we'll definitely see what happens there. And, folks, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Kelvin Boss man Fat Joseph. Dallas Cowboys cornerback Kelvin Damn Joseph. Folks, this man went to LSU. Don't know what happened. Ended up leaving the program. Came out of Kentucky. Drafted in the second round last year. Again, as part of their defensive overhaul. Was teammates with defensive tackle Quentin Bohanna. A solid player. Had all the tools. Was injured during the beginning of the season. Played well. Played decent towards the end of the season. And from all appearances, is actually a pretty good football player. Definitely a good contributor. Should push one Anthony Brown for the other starting cornerback job against Trayvon Diggs. As we say that we are not fans of Anthony Brown. Only reason why Anthony Brown finally had a good season because he knew that all his replacements were being drafted, which included the aforementioned Kelvin Joseph, which included the aforementioned Deshaun Wright, and even included the aforementioned Israel Mukwamu. So that's why Anthony Brown had something of a decent season, because he hadn't done a damn thing since he came to the league in 2016, but that's neither here nor there. So Kelvin Joseph, going into his second season, was seen as somebody who can push for a starting job, and obviously definitely be a third corner, but definitely make his impact. And personally, from a skill level, I prefer Kelvin Joseph over one Anthony Brown. However, when stories surfaced that there was a homicide, a drive-by, and Kelvin Joseph was possibly involved, and that got people's attention, like, wait a minute, a Dallas Cowboy involved in criminal activity, which the Dallas Cowboys, say what you want, I think have done a great job in drafting quality guys. They've gotten away from that foolishness of the 90s where it seemed like everybody was going to jail, even including some of their star players. The Cowboys have done a good job in drafting quality guys, and will give Jason Garrett credit. That's something that he always preached. So they've done a good job in drafting high character, high quality guys who are not going to get in trouble. You take over maybe Ezekiel Elliott, some of his silliness, but for the most part, they've had even kill guys. Dez Bryant is a little, he's a bit of a hothead, but once his early discretion, especially in his rookie season, he pretty much was cool. Again, Tyron Smith, the Zach Martins, Dak. I mean, these guys are leaders. Micah Parsons stays out of trouble. So we have a bunch of good guys on the team. But it turns out Kelvin Joseph was the passenger in a car that committed a drive-by, that somebody died. Somebody was murdered. And Kelvin Joseph never said anything until video surveillance was with the same people and seeing him in a car, was spotted in the car. Well, let me rephrase that. Detectives were able to piece that he might be involved, and they wanted to talk to him. And I believe there was the victim's brother who had him, I guess, some type of screenshot. I believe that was on an elevator or something like that, that these are the people who were involved in the original altercation that preceded the shots being fired from the vehicle. So Kelvin Joseph, while being questioned, admitted to being a passenger in the car when the drive-by shooting occurred. It didn't think, let me notify the police, didn't say anything. Only when police wanted to look for him to talk to him is when he finally came clean. And now it's appearing that we don't know if there's going to be punishment by the NFL. We don't know if he's still going to be charged criminally, because technically under Texas law, he can be charged. But I like to think, or what his lawyer stated was that, yeah, he was in a car, but he didn't pull the trigger. He didn't do anything. He was shocked about what happened. And we know how that interrogation went because we had exclusive audio footage from the interrogation of one Kelvin Joseph.
Look, let me break it down to you how it's going to happen. They're going to come through that door and be good cop, bad cop. Don't fall for that, all right? That's why I ate their food. So they put the plate of donuts out here to test your guilt. If you don't touch it, you're guilty. I ate the whole plate. The whole plate. Okay? It's me and you. They walk through that door, you don't say nothing. She did! She did it. She's the one you want. All right, I was just sitting at home watching cartoons, playing video games with my cousin, and she came in there.
Glenn,
all right?
you're free.
Hey, I am not going to jail for you or anybody else. I have done nothing bad my entire life. Hey, man, I'm still a virgin. Okay, so what? I downloaded a couple of thousand songs off the internet.
And there you have
Who hasn't?
You know that he was in that room singing and telling on everything and everybody. And trust me, all that from the hood, don't snitch, no snitching, y'all can miss me with all that. When you're looking at a life sentence or 25 to 30 years behind bars, trust me, you gonna start talking too. Even mafia figures, when they're looking all that mafia talk and the muerta, we don't snitch, ain't no telling. When you're looking at 40, 50 years in prison, a lot of them end up telling, even including the mob bosses. So again, all that no snitching stuff, nobody wants to hear that. Kelvin Joseph was in that room thinking, okay, wait a minute, I need to tell what happened, even though I was in that car, but I need to get all the heat off of me and put it on the people that I was in the car with. So again, my heart goes out to the victim as well as his family. Again, nobody should have to bury a loved one under those circumstances, and it's sad and it's tragic for all. But for Kelvin Joseph, brother, keep your ass at home. I said this back then. The minute when he showed up at that first practice, after being involved in a drive-by shooting that resulted in a murder, he shouldn't have to worry about any game film. He doesn't have to worry about nothing. Just do some sprints, and just do some sprints. After he gets done sprinting, and right after he falls out and throws up, go ahead and run him some more. And after he gets done with that, he should be cutting the grass on a practice field with a push lawnmower. At some point, you have to send a message to some of these guys that some of their behavior is not going to be tolerated. At some point, that's what you're going to have to do. So we'll see how that situation develops. But until the next time, it's Chin Check Radio, Dallas Cowboy offseason, as well as preview for the upcoming 2022 season. Check us out during the NFL season. Until the next time.